There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died. Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. She was a swing covering Demeter, Syllabub, Rumpelteazer, Jelly Lorm, and Grizabella during the 1987 third U.S. National Tour. So welcome, Karen Longwell, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, Mike. Thanks. I'm glad I get a chance to do this.
I am excited because you, as a swing, you get to, I've been fascinated by the concept of a swing to begin with, because I just think it sounds like the hardest thing in the world to do. And then doing
easy.
It on tour and then doing it on a show that, you know, at the time was this kind of like phenomenon. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about before you got this show, or when you finally booked the show and you're going to go on tour, what did you know about cats at that time?
Well, I had been auditioning for the show. I had auditioned this Cats 3 had been auditioning for months and months and months. And I went to the auditions and I got a couple callbacks. And so I looked at T.S. Eliot's Book of Practical Cats and the Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. And I said, but I also saw the show like a year and a half before that. My husband and I went to see the show. It was amazing, of course, on Broadway. So I was thinking, well, I could do this. I'm primarily a singer. So I thought, well, it's mostly a dance show, but I can dance pretty well. I should give this a shot because, you know, when you're young, you audition for everything anyway, you know. So, I went down to the end for the Cats 3 auditions, but I didn't get it. And I said, oh, well, okay, move on. But apparently I went into a file and they kept me on file. And then the first person that gave their notice on that tour, they called me in because it was the utility swing, the woman that was covering 5 different parts. And so her name was Donna Lee Marshall, wonderful woman. She went on to do Grizabella in Cats 4. So she was moving up the ladder. But so I get a call out of the blue. We want to see you. And so I came in and I sang I sang a very campy operatic thing. I think I did like a camp version of an operatic aria because of that. I was thinking of the character Jelly Lorm, you know. Mm-hmm. And then they got me back the next day to dance, and oh my God, that was one of the hardest dance things I'd ever done. But I said, I'm sticking this out. I am going to do this. I was lame for a week, but I did it, and they gave me the job. And I have to give Richard Stafford a lot of credit because, you know, he said to me, Karen, we're hiring you, but you're going to have to work on your dance. and I said, okay. I got my marching orders. So as soon as I got out there, I was going to every gym, every rehearsal hall and working as much as I could on my dance just to get up to the level of all these thoroughbred dancers that I was working with.
Yeah, and you had some heavy dance numbers with some of the, you know, with the covers, like Rumpelteazer is a heavy dance number. I think so is Demeter. So you got thrown into it.
I did. Rumpelteazer was probably the hardest. It was the most cardiac part that I did. She was just constantly in movement when she was on stage. So that was tough. Grizabella was a breeze.
Yeah.
You know, she waltzes on stage and sings the big hot number and leaves, you know. But the other ones, they were hard. Demeter, she was sensual. She had to like snake around the stage. She gets thrown around by McCavity. And it was dangerous. And we had to really rehearse it a lot. There was always the understudy and swing rehearsal once a week. And we had one chance per week to work on the staging with all the other cats. So we worked hard. We really did. We earned our paycheck.
Yeah. And so you get to now go around the country in this show that's kind of this, everyone keeps saying it was the Hamilton of its time.
Right.
And you're going on all these different characters. What were the reactions? Did you feel like you got different reactions when you went on as different characters, or like how do you feel the show when you're in a different role multiple nights when you're all over the country?
Yeah, well, you get in a zone if you have to go on. You get into your performer zone. You forget about the fact that you're in Phoenix or you're in Indianapolis. You're just focused on the show. And of course, I had to focus doubly hard because I had to figure out, okay, I'm doing Demeter today. Okay, let's find her physicality. Let's find, where her head is at, so that I didn't confuse it with all the other cats I had to do.
Yeah. So that's probably my favorite question to ask everybody is I've spent more time than I'd like to admit in my life trying to understand the backstory of all of these cats. And I know that you are given some kind of story. So how much do you try to bring in? And I guess what were you also told about the different cats that you were going to be playing?
Yeah. Well, because I was a replacement, I missed the initial cats school, where they crawl around on the floor and act like cats and all of that. So I basically had to do it myself. I mean, I was given some information, backstory on these characters, but most of it I had to come up with myself.
So let's go through them. I want to know what you came up with and what you were told. Because I think that's the most, because it doesn't sound like there are some things that are kind of common beliefs of like, I know this is this, I know this is that. And then there's a lot where I've now talked to multiple old Deuteronomies, multiple people that have played different parts. And it's a little bit of different backstories each time, which I kind of love. But I also, as someone trying to solve this mystery, it also is driving me nuts. So let's do Rumple Teaser, because I think that's not one I've covered as much.
Rumple Teaser. Well, she's a street cat. There's some cats that have collars. You can see it in the show. They wear collars. So that they have owners that take care of them. They have a meal every night. Well, Rumple Teaser was not one of those. She grew up on the streets, and she probably grew up with Mungo Jerry. The two of them were probably kittens together. They're still very young. But they were like the characters in Oliver. They learned how to pickpocket. They got off on it. They got a high from it. It was just fun. It was so much fun to break into people's houses and just smash things, and then run out and go, who knows what her future was going to be in that profession, but she was certainly enjoying it at the moment of the show. She loved, stealing.
I call them the klepto cats. But so I guess, do you think that a Rumple Teaser is even auditioning for the Heaviside Layer?
I never felt that way. I didn't feel that she was ready to go on to another life. She was too busy having fun in this life,
Yeah. So they're just performing because they got the stage and they're there. Yeah. The two of them are just having a good time. What about Syllabub?
Syllabub is a very young kitten, and she's well cared for, very healthy. She hangs out with Victoria. The two of them are best buds, and but they tend to get corralled by Jelly Lorem and Jenny Anydots. Those two cats kind of mother them a little bit, and so they look to those. If they're ever frightened, they go straight for Jelly Lorem or Jenny Anydots in order to protect themselves, because there's a lot going on. It's very possible. I feel that Syllabub, this was probably her first Jellicle ball. I think she was invited to come to this ball, and this sweet young thing. And so she's very wide-eyed through the whole thing.
Do you think there's a relation with Grizabella?
I don't think she knew who Grizabella was. And I think that's part of her charm, is that her innocence. She doesn't understand any of Grizabella's life, and never saw her before. So Deuteronomy puts his magical specialness into syllabub so that she could sing that song at the beginning of the second act, which is the same song that Grizabella sings. So she's innocent enough that she can absorb this energy and just accept Grizabella for who she is. Just look at her quizzically, like, this is interesting.
Yeah. First ball, just happy to be there and not up for running as well. What about the one that I think there's a lot of theories on, but Demeter and the relationship, especially with Macavity?
Oh, well, Demeter, I think of her as a woman who picks the wrong man all the time, She may have aspirations for the Heaviside Layer, but I don't know if she's totally ready. She's ready to do that. She had a bad relationship with this horrible, abusive man called Macavity. Well, we call him a cat, okay? This cat, Macavity, and escaped. She literally escaped his clutches. He was like holding her. I think of the movie Room, where this woman was stuck in this shed. She got out, and she's scared to death. She's going to go back in. And I think her focus is not on going to the Heaviside Layer. It's just staying alive. And Bombalurina is also trying very hard to, like, calm down, girl. Bombalurina probably had an affair with Macavity at some point, and she's just saying, "Say, loosen up, girl. This, you're fine now."
Yeah. And then what about Grizabella?
Grizabella, she's the one with the most depth. The poetry that she sings was not in the original Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. The Behold the Cat Who Hesitates Toward You. That was a poem that he wrote in something called the Rhapsody of a Windy Night. And it was very serious about a downtrodden woman who's had a horrible life, probably prostitute, would hang out at Tottenham Court Road, which is the red light district. So she's seen the end. She's ready. She is so ready to be done with this horrible life. Of course, she had her glamorous moments, her Hollywood moments. Her I am the coolest, most sensual, fabulous cat in town, and now she's not.
Why do you think she left the tribe?
She was grand. She was very grand, and thought that she was above the tribe. There's a life lesson there. No one is higher than anybody else. She went off to try to seek her fortune, and she couldn't find it within this tribe, this small little group of cats that, sure, they're allowing me into their little special club, but I'm better than this. I'm going to go be a star. and then she wasn't a star. I mean, it's a pretty typical story, actually, of like you can use parallels to Hollywood or theater. People who are on top and then they're not.
The redemption story for sure is always it's a common theme. I do think, and I'd love to hear, having been in the show, saw the show, early on when it came, you said you saw it before you kind of got the role.
Yeah.
How would you tell somebody who's never seen the show and is about to go see, the next tour or whenever it's back on Broadway, what they're going to go see? How would you say, here's my description of Cats to you?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Don't go expecting a plot. That's the first thing. Then I would try to explain what plot there is. And then I'd say, just go and enjoy little vignettes of really fun, beautiful dancing, beautiful singing, and just have fun. Don't expect anything. Don't go there expecting, a Pulitzer Prize winning, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's not, or, anything like that.
So what is that plot? I want to hear your plot of how you would say this is from start to finish what you're going to see.
All right. Well, there's this magical group of cats. They all seem to have been born with a certain kind of DNA that makes them a little bit more. Um, they have extra powers. They have magical powers. And they all sort of gravitate towards each other. They find each other. And they have called themselves the Jellicle Cats. And they have a ball every year where they decide who is the one cat who is going to go to cat heaven, i.e., the Heaviside Layer. And it could be anybody. And everybody who wants to go on does their campaign to Old Deuteronomy to ask him if they could be the chosen one this year. But it's mostly about getting together and having a huge party, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of love that. I did want to see a little bit of did you see the 1998 movie or the 2019 movie?
I saw both, actually.
Saw both. What did you think about the I'm more interested in the 2019 movie.
Well, I really missed the comedy. What happened to all the funny, the funny lines and, Rumpelteazer and Mungo Jerry, they just, there wasn't anything cute and funny happening there. I missed that.
Yeah.
It was very serious. I loved what they did with Mr. Mistopheles, how he was so insecure. He didn't really understand his powers because he was just scared, very scared.
That's fascinating because that was probably one of my least favorite things. Is I really loved, and I really liked. My frame of reference for this is the 2016 revival I saw twice in the 1998 movie, which is what's on YouTube, and so the Mr. Mistopheles in the 1998 movie and on YouTube is like this very fun and fabulous and energetic character.
Yes.
and magical, and like it's just like it's all encompassing. And then you get to this movie and it's like this timid and kind of strange and a little bit insecure. And I was waiting for this like over the top magical dance singing like fun number. And I got the opposite, which I wasn't expecting. It was kind of one of those things that it's one of the parts where I was just like, I wish they would have done that. And I wish they would have, I didn't know much about it. I learned that the Mungo Jerry and Rumpelteazer number was a different version. It was like the original British version. I loved the version that I saw, or the one that I saw in the movie. And so I wish I would have had that cadence and that dance number.
Oh, well, they're children's poems. They're all based on children's poems. And I think it was the movie attempted to give some more depth to the characters. They're not so two-dimensional. But, there's nothing like having this guy come out with a jacket that lights up and does like 14 fouette turns and blows the place, up with lights. That's so exciting. But the other side of it is, okay, who is this character? Can we see a growth of a character? Character development 101.
Yeah, it is really interesting to say that because you mentioned that they're a magical group and they have this, and it's like it is a different take of Mistopheles in a very different way of like, I don't know what to do with my powers. I have them. I'm going to have to potentially save Old Deuteronomy. I did think the movie forced some story arc into there, which is probably for the best to have a more, you said that there's no plot, but in a movie you kind of need one, or you kind of expect one a little bit more in a big Hollywood blockbuster. And so I think that was where a lot of their potential errors came from. Well, there's a lot of criticism on that movie. Yeah.
Well, I still found it entertaining. I mean, I really don't understand the vitriol behind this movie. Why was everybody vilifying this movie now? I mean, okay, it wasn't the best, but it was still fun, and I'm sure kids will still enjoy it,
I can tell you where I think they made a few errors, not in the movie, just in the leading up to the movie. They launched the first trailer on the same day as Top Gun. And the trailer was very, very, very over the top. It was hard to follow. It was like different cat sizes here, different cat sizes there. And if you're not familiar with the musical, and you're going to go see $100 million movie with a lot of household names, a lot of huge actors that's supposed to be there. It's kind of a strange thing to kind of go see. It's like it's cats played by humans. They're a little bit human, a little bit cat, and it's not the magic of theater where it's like, oh, that's really cool. They're in costume and makeup, but you're still really seeing like live theater. It was CGI'd, and it was CGI'd in some cases in ways it looks like. And then that was, I think, the second biggest errors is that it sounds like they didn't finish it until the day of. And I think
that's what I heard.
They ran out of time to really CGI it the way they wanted to.
Wanted to do it.
And so there were definitely some parts that were a little interesting in that. But there was a lot of other things I had with the movie. We definitely did a big debrief when we went and saw it. But I think that's the biggest thing is that it got a lot of press and a lot of buzz, and then it didn't fully deliver on what you kind of would have expected.
Yeah, I think that was it. There was a letdown. But, it's not everybody's cup of tea. My son says he thinks the whole idea is creepy. People dressing up as cats, he's creeped out by it.
It definitely has a huge fan base, an incredibly passionate, like super fan base. And then it has a bunch of haters. And I think the reason it has some haters is it's easy to poke fun at, which, as you know, I've got multiple episodes kind of poking fun at the plot and the characters, but it's an easy punchline. I've yet to find anybody, and this is my call to anybody, any listeners, which I'm assuming they're not listening if you hate cats, but I've yet to have anybody tell me a very good reason why they didn't like it. It's always like, I just didn't enjoy it. It's not my cup of tea. I think it's a little creepy, but I've never heard like a really detailed, like, it was bad because of X, Y, and Z. And I think it's because it's really not bad. It's really good. And it's just like, it just is different. And so if that different is not your cup of tea, then it's not for you. Yeah.
If you're going there expecting to see, an exposition, a development, and a final denouement or whatever, you're not going to get that.
Now, something that was well done, and I want to hear from you about, was the fundraiser that you participated in, you were a part of, for the Probably Cares COVID relief. And so I know that you did, you actually did a little bit of puppeteering in the video.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I am not a puppeteer. Okay. that disclaimer is out there. All right. There was just this section in the Jellicle Songs for Jellicle Cats that we were doing that there wasn't a lot going on. Jonathan said, okay, I just want you to rock out here, rock out. And I'm thinking, okay, but it's boring. So Jonathan's a wonderful director. No, don't get me wrong here. I think he just wanted a kind of spontaneity. So I went with the spontaneity. And so on Etsy, I ordered 2 cat puppets. And I said, okay, how am I going to make this work? There was just this one great section where I could duck down below the table and put my hands up and start singing as if I was the cats, Jellicle songs for Jellicle cats, Jellicle. So, and it worked. It worked pretty well. Even my husband said to me, "Hey, Karen, that was good."
That's awesome.
So I kept it in. They kept it in. I thought they might cut it. Oh, they might cut this. That's fine with me. I had fun, but they kept it. So.
Yeah, I think, and Jonathan said that, it was a great nod to the fact that they were children's poems and that there was a way to kind of integrate that in. So he was a big fan and thought it was a really cool idea.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Well, we were trying to push it as sort of a Halloween kid kind of evening, So.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about the fundraiser. What was it like reuniting? I think it 30 years later from being on tour and doing that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Like 35 years. We've all lived our lives. Some of us have stayed in touch, but it was such a gas to see all those people again that, when you tour, you become a family. You really are a family. You take care of each other. And then suddenly the gig is up and you go your separate ways. So there's this kind of, they talk about it like closing night letdown or whatever, sometimes it lasts for a month. It's like, whoa, where's my Cats crew?
Yeah.
But so here we are back together again. We're gray haired. We're a few wrinkles, but we're still the same people, and we still love each other. There was still the love that was so palpable, even through Zoom, when we'd have meetings. And we'd bounce ideas back and forth and catch up with each other. A lot of people are in LA. There's some that are teaching, some that are still performing, some are singers, some are songwriters. It's every part of the performing arts. Everybody has gone off in a diaspora, a cat diaspora, and gone on with their lives. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And what was, I'm sure you were involved in the fundraiser back in, when you were on tour, and what was that like as a, for you as a swing, doing 5, 6 multiple characters, and then also learning other songs and other dances to other shows in between doing shows?
Yeah, it was hard, but remember, you're doing 8 shows a week of the same show, and you're out on tour. It's not like you're in New York and you've got your coach that can, give you new songs to work on or whatever. So it was like, yes, something different, so we ate it up. We really ate it up. And we were young. So, rehearsing till 1 a.m. was no big deal.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that now, but yeah.
Now I want to do a few rapid fire questions. Okay. About the show. I've got a new one that I'm excited to see your answer on. So the first one is, I know you've played many different cats, but if you could play any single one, forget the male, female, forget if it's in your vocal range, forget if it's a dance number, just if you could just do any track, which cat would you want to do most?
Oh, well, there's 2.
You can have 2.
I would love to either do Gus, the theater cat, and Gus Growl Tiger, or Jelly Lorem Griddlebone. That whole segment there, that was so much fun going on and hearing the audience laugh and going for the laugh. I love that. I really do.
I love that. That's an answer. That's a section that I just don't know much about, because it's not one that I've seen a lot of variations on, because it wasn't in the revival, I don't believe. And there was, it's not in every single production, which means that there's limited ways to kind of see what that different change is.
Yeah. I don't know why they cut it. I know the cats, none of them liked to do the Siamese cats. Everybody hated doing the Siamese. Because talk about masks, everybody's wearing masks. It smashed your nose and you couldn't breathe, and all that was open was your eyes and your mouth. So, and you could hardly see, and maybe that was why they cut it. Who knows?
Maybe that was it. What was your favorite and least favorite character? Cat's character.
My favorite character.
Yeah, which cat?
I mean, Grizabella, she had the most depth, the most to work with as an actor, My least favorite, the Siamese. I don't know. The Siamese. Oh, gosh. Well, there's a lot of the male characters I don't even know anything about. Like Tumble Brutus, Pouncival, Alonso. I had very little interaction with them.
So you're just going to count one of those out. Least favorite. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fair. What about your favorite song in the show?
I loved singing Demeter. That was fun. To be sensual and just slink around and yeah.
I've gone through waves as I've watched and, recorded for the show and kind of listened for this podcast. When I saw the show the first time, it was Mungo Jerry and Rebel Teaser. I couldn't get that song stuck in my head. It was stuck in my head for like weeks. But the more I've prepped, it's McCavity. It's like, as I've listened to the album more, every single time it's McCavity. And so I'm with you that I think that's one of the most catchy songs of the entire thing.
Yeah, it's catchy. Well, that and Mistopheles. Oh, well, I never was there. I teach a lot, and my kids love that song. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they love seeing that.
Okay, this is my new question, and I think it's a little different. So, which cat do you think would be thriving in the 80s, the era of the 80s, and which cat do you think would be thriving in the era, like the 2020s, the 2020s, like this era versus in the 80s? Which character would be in their element in either period of time?
It has to be the same character, the same cat?
Which one? I think like what probably is going to be one that's going to thrive in the 80s and one that's going to thrive now.
I bet you. Well, I think. I have to think about that. Yeah, Bomb Ballerina comes to mind. I think she was in her peak
in the 80s. She would be an 80s
she's an 80s
star.
lady.
Okay.
Big hair, big shoulders, big padded shoulders and leather jackets. I could see her, styling it really well there. As far as right now, it would have to be somebody who's really into technology. Mephistopheles, because of his ability to make lights flash and things.
Yeah.
He'd be one of these guys with 14 computers,
Yes. I thought a little bit about this when I wrote the question, and I had Tugger for the 80s because I think just the rock era would thrive.
That
age. And I did think a lot about Mephistopheles for now. And then I got on a little bit of, I think, a Bustopher Jones, just consuming, just eating a lot, kind of hanging out, not doing a whole lot. Feels like the current 2021 for a lot of people.
He'd be big as a house during this time.
He's just spending his money. So I thought he'd be a very current character. Okay. My $1 million question. I think based on some of the stuff you've said today, I think that I know the way you're going to go, but I have argued a lot about why I don't think Grizabella should have been the right choice for the Heaviside Layer. So I want to know if you think she was the correct choice, and I want to hear your defense of her. And if not, I want to know who else you think should be considered.
Well, yeah. Okay. I think it was Grizabella. I think she deserved to go on. Well, her need, first of all, there was so little in this life for her. And it's like she had learned everything she needed to learn. But if there was a runner-up, of course, it would be Gus. Gus is living in the past completely anyway. So he's not living in the present. He has no future. He doesn't think about the future. So that seemed to be, that would be my runner-up. I'm sorry, I'm being very,
it's very
middle of the road, but
no, it's fine. I think there's a million different ways to argue this, which is the fun of it. How do you think Old Deuteronomy makes the decision?
Well, he knows all these cats really, really well. And you could argue that he reads their minds. He can get into their minds. He certainly got into Syllabub's mind. Mm-hmm. And he knows what kind of torture might be going on with these people. I mean, actually, third place might be McCavity, because here's an incredibly angry cat that, only wants to destroy. So he's probably picking between those three, but the one that truly cannot go on is Grizabella. She falls to the ground at the end there when she's singing that song, like, I can't go on anymore. And that may have been the thing that kicked him over to say, okay, it's her.
Yeah, I have heard this is what I love about the shows. There's so many ways to interpret it. And there's so many ways to kind of say, here's why the decision was made. Here's why that decision shouldn't have been made. And it seems like the consensus is it's between Grizabella and Gus, because the two most they're on the older side for, the in the cat world, and they have the depth of being able to do that. I do think there's a lot of really interesting arguments to make against a lot of other characters, though. And it depends on how you frame. It seems like it all, to me, depends on how you frame Old Deuteronomy's decision. Meaning that if you're going to do it purely on who's deserving, it's probably Gus. If there's on need, it's probably Grizabella. If it's on performance, because that's kind of the way they tee it up, is we're going to watch all these performances to see who deserves to go.
Yeah.
Then it opens up a whole different game of like, well, let's look at some of the kittens or some of the young ones, because there's some really good performances that are in there as well.
Okay, if you're going to base it purely on performance, I would say Mistopheles.
Mistopheles is performance. Okay. I like it. That's how that was how I interpret it. Mistopheles and Tugger together.
It's sort of like winning America's Got Talent. I think then it becomes the talent show, That's
exactly how I watched it. And that is exactly where this whole thing comes from, is because I saw X Factor. I felt like I saw the X Factor, and that meant that you can combine cats together to make a cat band and send them together to win. And that's what I did. But that's again, the fun of this is that I know I'm probably wrong, but I have, 50 episodes or so of arguing why I'm right. And so I'm going to stick with it until I hear the most compelling, this is why it's Grizabella. And it's probably going to take an Andrew Lloyd Webber or an Andy Blankenbuehler or somebody,
probably
to like really
someone
talk me
authority.
into it. Someone who I can say, well, I can't really argue against that.
Yeah.
But so my other question to you is what are you, I know you said you're teaching, what else are you doing these days?
Well, I am a teacher of voice and piano. I teach in 2 different schools up here in Westchester, and I also have my private students. I'm also a music director at a church. It's a very hip church. I love them. It's the Yorktown United Methodist Church. We do a lot of contemporary Christian music, and we have a praise band and a choir, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy that a lot. But the teaching is really fulfilling and challenging to get children. It's mostly music, so that's where my thrust is, to get them to appreciate music and to not be afraid to sing out and enjoy it. There's a lot of this America's Got Talent. People are afraid to open their mouths to sing because they're competing with people they hear on all these talent shows. Mm-hmm. So I find that's a hurdle that I have to get over. Come on, we're just going to sing. We're going to sing for fun, okay?
Yeah. And are you taking students? How can people get in touch with you?
Yes, I have my website, KarenLongwell.com, just like it sounds. I have a Facebook page and an Instagram account, so you can reach me in any of those places if you'd like to have some lessons. And I do virtual, so I can teach people in Thailand. I can teach people in London, whatever.
Do you do, how many requests have you gotten for Cat's songs? Do you do voice on singing certain ones? And I know that you can play memory on the piano because I've heard it.
Oh, that's right. Well, not a lot of people know that I did Cats. It's interesting. My students, anyway. It's not like I wear it on my sleeve or anything. But a lot of. Actually, today I just realized this. My student, just before I came here, said, "I would really like to sing Memory."
There you go.
So there you go. Yeah.
I love it. That is, I did notice my the piano tunes for my mom, for her pianos. When he does the tuning, his final finishing is he plays Memory. And it was something that never noticed. And then when I saw the show, I was like, I've heard this song before. And it wasn't until during the pandemic when I'm home, I heard that the pianos got tuned, and I heard it, and I'm like, someone's playing Memory downstairs. And it clicked. I'm like, oh, that's why I know this song so well. Like before I saw the show, I'm like, that's why I know it, is because I've heard this tuner tune multiple pianos for that. So, so I do know you can play Memory on piano if if you have any of your piano students are looking for a new song to tackle.
Okay. You've given me ideas now. I might just use it.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming on and humoring me through all this and sharing all these amazing stories about your time. And the puppeteering, I think I remember seeing it, and I thought it was one of the coolest things. I thought it was great. And then when I heard, how fun it was to have that integrated into the piece was phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed this. I could go on for hours.
I have gone on for hours, and that is something I never expected. If you would have asked me multiple years ago if I would be talking this much about Cats the Musical, I would have probably laughed in your face. But it's been fun.
Yeah, it has.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.